Greetings, everyone. Mario Blandini here, founder of Resolve Networks and host of the Comeback Podcast, where we share hopeful thoughts and perspectives involving the good deeds of people. Now, my mission is something pretty simple, just to prove that good is more than charity. And when we are united by a purpose and we engage ourselves in a purpose, it's my belief that it's everyday people that are going to play the decisive difference in us achieving a greater good. Why? Because we're stronger together. And my hope, it's the good deeds that we do together. Volunteers and my brother Ted and I, who's the subject of today's show, we're all going to play a part in ourselves reaching our highest potential. And it's a pleasure to welcome to the show somebody that's normally behind the scenes at Resolve Networks, but my co-founder, Ted. How are you doing today, co-founder?
I'm doing great, and you're absolutely right about me wanting to be, or me being behind the scenes. You know, in the band where I am, I play bass guitar and run the sound, as we had been talking about a little bit beforehand. And yeah, that's the behind the scenes foundation stuff right there.
That's right. It takes a team of people to do it. And while I might be the most famous dude at the company, Ted, you're equally there with me, brother. And I'll first start off by asking, I already know the question, but no guest escapes it. Are you hopeful today?
I am hopeful and faithful that good will overcome all the adversity that we have in the world today.
And there's plenty of it, brother. We know it. Hey, we'll talk a little bit about your comeback story. You literally moved to Idaho to open up an axe throwing business. I mean, why are you doing that during COVID? That's dumb.
That is. Here's the deal. My daughter and her mother moved out to Spokane, Washington in, I think, 2016. And I was in Oklahoma at the time, could not get away from Oklahoma, wanted to be near my daughter. Situations finally aligned where I could make a move and get out of Oklahoma and, move closer to my daughter. Nothing against Oklahoma. I just love my daughter. So I moved to Coeur d'Alene, Idaho, which is just right across the state line from Spokane. And, quite frankly, I'm tired of working for other people. I want to work for myself, wanted to move here and create a job for myself. And had a good buddy that, is very well known in the axe throwing industry. And so, we just decided to make a go of it and open a place. And, just as soon as this COVID stuff clears out, we'll be able to go finally at full throttle versus, have that governor on there that's keeping us slowed down at the moment.
Yeah, I don't know how many axes were the cause of coronavirus, but that's another subject.
Very much.
So your and my comeback stories are kind of intertwined. And I think that's one of the reasons why I wanted to have you on, brother, is to talk about your comeback story. And it started before we knew each other.
When I grew up in Arkansas. And when I graduated from high school, I knew that the world was bigger than Arkansas. I've always had a big worldview type thing. I wanted to get out and see more. So I went to college at Colorado State. And I had completed, as a matter of fact, I was in my fourth semester there, had an apartment off campus. And I had a roommate that totally surprised all of us when he committed suicide in the back room of our apartment. That quite frankly threw me for a loop. My grades started suffering. I stayed in school for finished out that semester and stayed in one more semester, but my grades had dropped to where I had a GPA of 1.92 at the end of that last semester that I was there. Before I could be called into the office and put on probation, I put myself on probation. I dropped out of school because I had always been interested in World War II history from the Pacific Ocean. I was interested in the Marines. And I didn't have, I did a quick check of my life skills at that time. The only real skill that I had where I could get a job was running a chainsaw. And I really didn't want to be a lumberjack as much as I loved being in the woods. Mm-hmm. So went and talked to the Marine recruiter, told him, about my situation, convinced him I was smart enough to get into the avionics program. And so he signed me up. And 1 week before Saddam Hussein invaded Kuwait, I was signed up to go to boot camp. And the rest is history.
And that same day, this kid from San Jose got on the first airplane he'd ever got on too, and went to MCRD San Diego and stood on the yellow footprints too, which is kind of cool. So we never knew each other in boot camp, but we were part of the same company in boot camp. So our comeback stories kind of started then.
I believe in the barracks, we either, your platoon and my platoon was either one floor above or below each other.
And who knows which one it was, yeah. And we were blessed. We got a chance to go to Marine combat training together. We spent an extra month at Camp Pendleton, and we've run into each other a lot of times in life. And I'll admit, I was the kind of person. Yeah, funny story. I'm literally on. Well, why don't you tell it, Ted? Because I'm always the one telling this one.
Mario and I had finally gotten to the fleet through all of our tech schools, and I had just gotten through doing some logistics, moving one squadron from Hawaii to Okinawa, and I was flying back to Hawaii via commercial flights with a connecting flight in Guam in order to rejoin my new squadron that was still in Hawaii. And lo and behold, changing flights in Guam, walking down the concourse, and here comes Mario. Do a quick high five. How you doing, brother? Yeah, you're going to be in Okinawa. Okay, great. I'll be back in a few months with my next squadron. Let's hook up then. Small world.
It's a very small world. Yeah. And one of the things I want to talk about in our journey is that I too personally, I have a blog on veteran suicide prevention. And I think for me, when we first started talking, the idea was different, huh? I mean, it's been 3 years now, and so you're going to help account how we got here, because you've had a 3-year journey to get to where we are today too, brother. And so talk a little bit about what you were doing at the time before I called you, because I had a chance to enjoy beers with you in Tulsa one time. I was in town for work, but it was about 3 years ago when this crazy dude from your past called you. Bring back a little bit of those memories. What were you doing at the time, and how did that change what got us here today?
Well, there's probably two parts to that little story there. At the time, I was working for a financial services company in Tulsa, Oklahoma, and I was just kind of not necessarily. I was kind of bored with the job. It wasn't giving me what I wanted out of life. Just kind of the ho hum rat race. Just going to work Monday through Friday, 8 to 5, 1 hour for lunch, commute going in with the traffic jam every afternoon at the same place on the highway. And I wasn't the happiest. I wasn't fulfilling my greatest potential, which is a catchphrase that we've used quite a bit over the last 3 years. I was at lunch one day, sitting in my truck, just about to head back to work, and get a call from you. And you pitched this crazy idea that I could not follow. Well, I guess I could. I got snippets of it. Yeah. But I was like, hey, brother, I get the gist. I'm in. Let's do this and see what we can turn this into and go. The other facet, the reason you called me is about, I want to say it was probably 3 years before you called. Maybe. Yeah, probably 3 years before.
No, you had been doing it for a long time. Yeah.
Well, I'd been doing that job for a long time, yes. But you came into town, and we went out and had dinner, and you found out that I had a sideline business doing political consulting.
That's what they called data science before data science became popular.
Yes. Well, what I did was I went and got what am I trying to say here? What I did was I went to the state election board and got free data that anybody can get on voters. Mm-hmm. I did a lot of research, found out that voters are incredibly habit-driven people. From just the basic information of when somebody shows up to vote, and you don't have any information on who they voted for, but you do know when they vote, what elections they voted for, and you can deduce, if you're smart about it and come up with an algorithm, you can deduce when someone is going to show up to the next election based on their behaviors of the elections they chose to vote in before.
Yep.
So once I knew who was going to vote up, once I knew who was going to show up to vote, that's very valuable information to politicians. Mm-hmm. I did not charge as much as I could have because I specialized in grassroots candidates that were usually involved in primaries that had multiple candidates in there.
Mhm.
A lot of times they were um, first time
Politicians, yeah.
candidates.
Yeah.
First time politicians. They weren't politicians yet. They were still just regular people that were concerned. That they let somebody talk them into running for office.
Yeah.
But I was able to help them, and I developed some campaign strategies to help these people get into office. And I think at one time I counted up the Oklahoma legislature, and I had assisted in about 20% of the state House of Representatives campaigns, and about 2/3 to 3/4 of those were campaigns that I was intimately involved with, and we hope to get these people into office, and hopefully we did some good.
Yeah. Hopefully, and that's what this podcast is about, brother. It's about hope.
Yes.
And for me, the idea we first started with was let's end homelessness for Marines. Why did I pick that? I think I picked it.
Outrageous goal.
Yes, I've got an even more outrageous one now, brother. And I think this is something we believe that if people did more good deeds in their life, and not I'm talking for random strangers, I'm talking about people doing good deeds for people they really care about. Let's say, for example, our Comeback League app today, anybody, veteran, non-veteran, people who support veterans, it doesn't matter. You go pick up some trash at a retail location, you earn money for veteran suicide prevention. And as the time of this taping of this podcast, it's not going as great as we would have thought, right, brother? Because we thought that vets would want to come out and do this. They even told us. That's the crazy thing. Didn't they tell us they'd want to? But then now that the apps are here, maybe it's different. We didn't expect that, did we?
No, we didn't. Nothing is as easy as you originally think. If it was, then
everybody'd already do
easy,
it. It'd already be done, yeah.
I know I need to say something else here. Could you restate that question?
Yes, the question is that we picked off this big thing called not veteran suicide, but we started with homelessness. And I wasn't able to get a lot of people interested in that. But when we changed it to suicide prevention, it seemed like people picked it up. Like, you know what? Hey, that's something I could come out for. Because homelessness, it's somebody else's job. Don't we pay a bunch of people to do all that? But you could argue that's what's happening today. Every veteran nonprofit that's getting money and all the government organizations and all the other faith-based groups, there's a high capacity for serving veterans that need help to reduce suicidal ideation. But I just think that there hasn't been a technology to bring people together, right? And so our original idea was if we could just be the DVR for good, so to speak. We use technologies to capture that experience. Not only would people want to go replay it themselves and maybe have people in their family replay. Look at this cool thing I did in real life that created money for a nonprofit. You can do that with the app, but really, it's now that you've created the good and there's a monetary value to it, we can start doing a lot of things different when it comes to how we work on problems. And talk a little bit, brother, about then you. Because like me, you really weren't connected. We were working our asses off being dads, right? We weren't engaging with veteran organizations and nonprofits. That was just the part of life we were doing that. So we're blessed at this part of our life to happen to be doing similar things. But how do you feel? What is your advice then to somebody who maybe was like we were? They're in their 30s. They've got children. They want to give, but they don't know how. And frankly, it's not easy because hey, we all want the convenience of something that's on our phone. Talk a little bit about how you would have done it differently than had this app been available.
Well, before this app was available, if you wanted to volunteer, you had to, typically go to meetings and meet with people and do a lot of things. I'm a data guy. I'm an introvert by definition, right? I don't necessarily like going to meetings all the time. But that's part of the problem is that you end up getting in that eternal circle of death by meetings. But with this app, all you have to do is just download the app, and then you can just go run a mission and create some good. We mentioned the homelessness earlier. That was such an overwhelming goal Nobody thinks we're actually ever going to be able to solve homelessness. All we can do is just help those people out. But when you talk about suicide, that's all of a sudden attainable, because we have burned into our minds now that there are 22 veterans every day that commit suicide. Well, that's a real number. We can actually find a way to keep score on that and bring that number down. When it hits 21, we're throwing a party. When it
Hell
hits
yes.
18, we're throwing another party. When it finally hits 0, these are numbers, these are real numbers that we can keep track of and set a goal to reach.
Amen.
And once we can, that's the problem with the keeping score. All these meetings, there's not anybody out there that's keeping the records on the good that they're doing. There a lot of, for most of these organizations, they're just simply doing good and hoping it makes a difference, but they don't know what kind of difference they're making. They can tell you how much money they spent, but that's about the only number that I think they really know.
I know, and I think that we both feel a sense of service to that, right? Because I'm a person of faith, as I know you are, brother, and I've been going through midlife trying to think of what the heck am I supposed to do here, right? I know I'm supposed to do something, but maybe I'm a late bloomer. I didn't figure it out. You had it pretty well figured out because you were the older brother of our group. I mean, one of my fond memories is that you had a Bronco. And none of us were old enough to drive and have cars, but you came out of college, so you had a Bronco, and we piled in that thing and went back to Arkansas and had a bunch of really fun times. You were kind of like the older brother I never had, because I'm an oldest child, right? And so that kind of brotherhood thing, hit me. Talk about how you see what we're doing helping bring people together, because at the end of the day, it's hard to say, oh, I'm going to go hang out with my buddies, right? Because you've got a wife and a family and all these obligations and the rat race. But don't you think it'd be a good excuse to go out and have a couple beers with your buddies, but you tell your wives or your girlfriends or your family, people in your family, yeah, we went out and ran a mission and earned $50 for charity, right? It gives you I don't want to call it an excuse, but it's the perfect reason to get together with people that you share some affinity with, right?
Right. How often do people get tired of their buddies or their spouses saying, yeah, I'm going to go out and have a beer with the buddies? Okay, well, that just sounds like nothing but bad things are going to happen from the beginning.
That's right.
But if you go out and you run a mission with your buddies, show up to one of the locations that we have right now, and do some good. And then all of a sudden we have that record that good was done. Nobody's going to criticize you for going out and having a beer with your buddies after you run a mission.
That's what I'm saying, brother.
The whole, it's all about the purpose. And,
Amen.
it's the purpose. We overuse the word mission sometimes, but the purpose, the mission, it's the reason we're there is to help our brothers. And, quite honestly, a lot of the veterans that are out there that are considering suicide, do suffer from, PTS.
Amen.
And a lot of times, one of the best things that you can do for someone who has PTS is just spend time with them. Go out there, get them involved doing something. And eventually, I know this has happened. You and I both have intimate knowledge of people who have PTS that once someone has gone out there and done something with them, they want to turn around and do that again and do it for others and help those people out. And it's that fellowship that really helps it out. So even though, the first mission in the app is just to go out and pick up trash, the opportunities all of a sudden create, the opportunities for fellowship become what is driving everything. And that's the direction we're headed. The app is not going to end at picking up trash. That's just,
of course not. That is just the beginning. And, I'll want to get back. Maybe we can wrap up on our brother Mike Damon, who, Marine like us, went on to serve otherwise, and he's got a really cool story. Maybe we can tease that a little bit, because he was in your squadron back in Hawaii, right?
Yes, he was.
Okay, well, we'll tease that. But to start, go figure. Your buddy calls you about creating an app that's focused on veteran audiences, and go figure, our most popular audience is people who love the environment. Like Zero Trace. We have a partnership with the Leave No Trace, Center for Outdoor Ethics. That's like in your wheelhouse, right? Because you were supposed to do forest management back in your day, and now go figure, we've got a company that's driving investment into wild areas.
Well, picking up trash to raise money for suicide for veteran suicide prevention. The actual act is helping to clean the environment. Who doesn't want a clean environment? To get all these political leanings aside and everything. We can argue about the high level, who gets credit for it or whatever, but the ultimate goal is to help clean up the environment. And if we can do both of those together.
Yeah, we can do both. And the cool thing is I don't care if you want to play to make money for veterans or you want to play to make money for the environment, because it really doesn't matter. It's just finding ways through our technology to give people almost a recommendation engine of doing good deeds. Today, there's not a lot of recommendations. Pick up some trash. But we started there because guess what? Everybody's in line to do the peer-to-peer counseling and help people update their resumes and do interview skills training. Everybody wants to do that. But you know who the backbone of any organization is? It's the people who pick up the damn trash, right?
That's right. That is right. And the companies are paying people to do that right now. Companies that give money to veteran organizations. So why not cut through the middleman? Let them, get those employees that they're paying to do that onto more productive jobs.
Amen.
And let us do it. Let us do it. And it really does create a synergy that I think can be a big benefit to society as a whole.
All right. So I know that you moved to Idaho, which has no shortage of natural splendor. I've had a chance to get up there and be with you, brother, and it is totally beautiful. What is your view on how young people will see the environment? Because your daughter is darn near the same age as Bella, right? Abby is. And she's like hardcore into the environment. I mean, like she's just totally all in, right? And I'm thinking, Bella, yeah, she likes the environment, don't get me wrong, but it doesn't, motivate her, right? So what is it about how you raised your daughter that instilled this love for the environment? Because I think it probably goes back to your own love of the environment and how if we all just did our part to not leave our trace, if no humans left a trace, we'd have no trash, right? And it starts with everybody. It starts with everybody.
Somehow at an early age, I took my daughter camping and she seemed to like it. That's the same thing my dad did with me. And that's what started my love of the outdoors. I've been a camper as long as I know. Take it to the next step. Once Abby moved out here to the Pacific Northwest, she was all of a sudden surrounded by the Bitterroot Mountains on the east and the Cascade Mountains to the west. And, the first time I came to visit her up here, that's exactly what we did. Was we went and spent 3 days in the North Cascades National Park. This last August, Abby and I went for a backpacking trip up Black Canyon on the Yellowstone River in Yellowstone National Park. That was a wonderful adventure. And that was her idea. She's the one that said, "Hey, can we go do this?" She just loves the environment. Just the early activities that we had when she was young, cemented that into her, and now she's just kind of taken reign of it and gone and started doing her own things. And luckily, she's asked me to come along on some of these adventures that she wants to go on.
Oh, that's great! Yeah, that's really great. I've had to lure my daughter and her nephews out to do some of those things because they're more city kids, right? But it started with you as an Eagle Scout as well, right? And so.
Yes.
You were an Eagle Scout. Is that something that still is a part of your life?
It's more unfortunately, it is more of a, what am I trying? Unfortunately, right now, Eagle Scout is more of a bullet point on a resume. Throughout the years, at various times, I've gone back to the Boy Scouts, and volunteered to be a merit badge counselor or something. But because of today's climate, you have to go through all these background checks and all this type of stuff to prove that you're a worthy person. And there's nothing in my background that would exclude me from it. And I went and did those background checks, and then I would never get a call back. It's almost like they have as many adult volunteers as they have boys in the Boy Scouts. It's kind of crazy. Some people would say, yeah, we don't have enough volunteers. Well, when it comes time to go camping, yes, it's hard to get adults that can take time off their jobs to go camping with the Boy Scouts for the adult supervision. But as far as merit badge counselors, they're not really, there's plenty of merit badge counselors. And I just felt that it would be really odd for, here's a guy who has a daughter who wants to volunteer to be a scoutmaster for a scout troop and go camping in the woods with boys. In today's society, that's not going to cut it.
Yeah.
So, the Boy Scouts, I wanted to be engaged with something. And, I tried the Boy Scouts, wasn't necessarily able to get in there because I didn't have a son. Now they allow girls to join the Boy Scouts and become Eagle Scout, but by the time they did that, my daughter was too old to really get involved in the program. Even though she's expressed that, hey, yeah, that would be kind of fun to do sometimes. But I tried joining the Marine Corps League in Tulsa before I left. I went to 3 or 4 meetings, and it's. I think this is endemic of a lot of the veteran organizations that are out there. They have a set meeting that happens the same way every time, and they talk about going out and doing things, but a lot of times they don't. It's really a support group for everybody, but there wasn't anyone my age for me to really click with in that group, and that's one of the problems with a lot of the larger veteran organizations, is every year their average age goes up a year. They're not bringing the young guys in, and that's where the engagement really needs to happen, is get the young guys involved so that they can spend time with each other that have had similar experiences with each other.
Yeah. And I honestly became somewhat, I don't know, I guess just bummed out that I couldn't make a difference when I was living in California. And go figure, I've recently joined a absolutely awesome Marine Corps League detachment here in Collin County, Texas. We've added 13 people, myself plus 12 others, just in the last 3 months of adding new members. And all of us are, I'm under 50, one other person wasn't, but most of these people were even under 40. So it's kind of cool. I haven't given up on the idea of a fraternal organization, but I do have the strong idea that if fraternal organizations don't actually do good things every single month, that they're not going to get young people to be involved, because the people just want to go straight to the doing good things. They could care less about the budgets, the bylaws, the minutes, the officers' remarks, any of that stuff. They just care less, right? Why don't we get together, go kick some ass, do something good, and then go have some beers afterwards, right? Exactly. Maybe that's the recipe that we're really looking for there. So thanks for sharing that, Ted. I do want you to tell the story of Mike Damon. And it's because that his story very early on in our ideation played a part in how we came up with this idea, because Mike does killer work with he and his organization. And this is not to diminish what he's doing. It is his capacity is limited to the resources he and one other human being have to go do their work. And I'm the Silicon Valley nerd. My goal is to figure out how to take something and scale it crazy big. But what he was doing, the rustic, organic quality of what he was doing, really did serve as an inspiration. And you're the one who brought him to the party, brother. So you're every bit as much of a founder as I am. Tell how that came to be, and then how that shaped the way we built our app.
Mike Damon and I were in squadron in Hawaii together. He eventually left the Marines and joined the Army, became I'm not even sure on the ground side what they would call it, but he was a gunner on top of a Bradley fighting machine in Afghanistan. I don't know how many tours he did over there, but when he came back, he suffered from PTS, to the point of, he was ready to take his life. He ended up losing his wife, his family, because of his issues with PTS, and tried to get through the VA and all the red tape that is involved, trying to find organizations that would help him out. But somehow, he hooked up with one group that brought him in, and through that group, he was able to negotiate all the paperwork that is involved to get through the red tape to get the benefits that you need. And he studied and learned that system. And, he just started helping other veterans get through that. And then realized that, it's the fellowship. That's where I got the idea of, it's the fellowship that really helps out the people with PTS. Well, Mike loves his motorcycles, and he had another buddy from the Army who loved his motorcycles. So they started riding around and going and visiting any vets they could find that have PTS,
Yep.
and just let them know, hey, we're here. Here's my phone number. Let's do something. So they do an annual trip around the country now, visiting vets every night, uh, at their each night's destination, and spend the night with them. Time of fellowship. Try to get them hooked up with local areas or with local organizations
And services and all
and
that. Yes.
yes. And so when you called with this idea, the first person I said came to was, hey, here's what the problem is. There are tons of organizations out there, but the problem is the veteran getting the paperwork done and submitted in order to get the work done. They get halfway through the paperwork and basically say, screw this. It's I'm not going to do all the paperwork. It's making me frustrated and mad, and I'm done. That's where they need help, is in connecting the organizations and getting the paperwork done, and that's a large part of what he does. And it's just a two-man operation. They need to scale. I think they know that they need that. They need more. They need to find out where more of the PTS victims are, and they
That's
need
right.
more people to go out and do them. And Mike will train people in order to go do this. If you're the only trainer, though, how scalable is that?
Yeah. Well, we'll work on that. But there was a element of truth to what he said, which was, if we only knew where every person with PTS was, we would cure
keep score.
PTS. Yeah, that was the idea. It's like,
Once again, you got to keep score.
If we knew where they were, we could create a campaign to reach all of them, because he's already found the answer. You sit down with somebody who has no hope, and you bring somebody who used to have no hope that now has hope, and they want to pass it on. That is the magic that I think we're trying to capture here. And our job, Ted's not to build a new experience on how to actually do this. We're simply just trying to make the matchmaking easier, so to speak.
Yes. Speaking of the matchmaking, the bringing the people together who need to do that, I have another Mike Damon story. I was sitting at my job. It was about a year before you gave me a call, I bet. And I was looking at Facebook on a break. And I saw a girl that I knew from high school. Her status just all of a sudden popped up there in my feed, and basically said, what is it with the FAA? Why are they so ridiculous? And, I can't remember exactly what it said, but she was obviously in trouble. I immediately sent her a Facebook message and said, Angie, what's going on? What's wrong? And so she messaged me back and said, I'm here with my son at the VA in North Carolina, and we can't get in to see the people that he needs. He has PTS, and we are now in the parking lot, and he is having an episode and punching the tree. He just needs help, but I'm afraid that he is causing a scene, and they're going to call the cops, and he's going to end up getting arrested, and that's the last thing he needs.
Right.
And I said, Angie, hold on. Let me see if I can get a hold of somebody. I sent a message to Mike Damon, and luckily, within 2 minutes, he had responded to my message and said, and I told him what was going on. And he said, give her my phone number, have her call me. Right then, send Angie the number. Angie called him. She gave the phone to her son. They were able to talk him down, go get a beer and a burger. And from that point on, Mike started helping Angie's son, another Marine, with what he needed to do to get things done outside of the VA as well as in the VA.
Mm-hmm.
And that right there, that's what our app is trying to do, is not necessarily automate that program, because automation means you're taking the human element out of it.
That's right.
But
We're connecting humans.
Much more efficient. Yeah, we've got to connect people, and that's what the ultimate goal of what we're trying to do is. And at the end of that day, I was in tears, because I was like, first of all, it felt really good to help somebody. But at the same time, it gave you a sense of the urgency and the seriousness of the problems that we're trying to solve, or at least mitigate.
Yep. Well, for me, I'm just trying to bring awareness, brother, because I try to think of in midlife, what am I supposed to do? Well, you've got an axe throwing business, which is great. You'll have to make sure you plug it. You say you're not the marketing guy, but at the end of the show here, you got to plug your axe throwing business. The Jumping Jackalope in in Spokane, Washington, for those who want to check that out. But
my partner. My partner in the jumping jackalope I believe it was last week, was in Atlanta at the world competition and finished 7th in the world. So, you come to Spokane, you're going to get a quality experience. You're going to get taught by one of the top 10 axe throwers in the world.
previously ranked number 1. I mean, I never knew that axe throwing was
Yes.
such a hot thing, but like, there's massive competition. Heck, if people watch cornhole on ESPN, axe throwing's even a little more fun than that, right?
Exactly.
All right, as we go to wrap it up, brother, I mean, I consider you to be my older brother that I never had. And maybe it's because you were older than me, that you were smarter than me. I got a chance as a young person to experience things that I never would have experienced without knowing you. And so, and you told your story about how some crazy guy called you about this, crazy idea. Now that we're here today, brother,
I surround myself with crazy people.
Yes. Where do you see us? Okay, we're 3 years in, brother. Where do you see us in 3 years?
In 3 years, I hope to. I don't really know how to articulate that. I know where I see us, but I want to see us simply feeling good about ourselves, because at that point, veterans have taken control, not necessarily control, but have taken ownership of the app, and you start learning to use it to connect with everyone that they need to connect with, knowing that we made a difference. I think that making a difference within the next 3 years is within reach, and that is where I see us. If I didn't see us there, would it really be worthwhile?
I know, and that's what's so cool about this, to share this with you. For everybody, Ted Darr, who my close friend and business partner, co-founder of Resolve Networks. I kind of came up with the crazy idea, but you're the guy who's doing all the data stuff in the back end, so I can focus on the front of the house, right? Not unlike Miguel, who's the front of the house at the axe throwing shop, and you're the back of the house at the axe throwing shop, right?
And the band. Miguel is the blues, the guitar player in my blues band as well, and he's the diva guitar fret player up front. I just sit back in the back with the
rhythm section of the drummer, and just lay it down.
Set the foundation down.
All right, just getting in the pocket. All right, hey brother, thanks a lot for stepping outside your comfort zone and getting in front of a camera and talking to people. But we all have a comeback story, and I think that's what's so cool about not just the business we're working on, but also the us as people. Everybody's got a comeback story, and ours are intertwined, and as are many of the people that have been on this podcast so far. So with that, we'll wrap this episode up. Thanks again, brother.
Thank you.
All right. And for everybody else, our goal on the Comeback Podcast is pretty simple. We want to bring you human beings that have thoughts and perspectives that are hopeful, because good deeds, we really do believe, are going to play the decisive difference in making the world a better place and really proving a huge impact. And so my hope is that you think about good deeds. If you can't tell, we're passionate about this because it's something really easily to get passionate about. And so I don't want to apologize for that. I do hope that our passion can rub off on you. Not that you go pick up trash with a video game, but just think about how you could do a good deed for somebody else. And odds are you're going to feel better about it. And if we turn this movement into something larger than just two middle-aged dudes talking, and we make it something that everybody can do, because everybody has a chance to do a good deed. And we believe that act of doing something good is going to help you reach your highest potential. Thanks again, everybody. We'll see you on the next time we have the Comeback Podcast.